Hello all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. As winter descends, energy prices are skyrocketing in numerous countries around the world. In Spain, the price of electricity has tripled, and the UK is experiencing fuel shortages not seen in decades. More than 20 provinces in China have rotating blackouts because of lack of energy. When looking at it carefully, the reasons behind the national energy shortages vary from country to country, but the results will probably be the same for everyone. We are in for a very expensive winter. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, whose publication of the Panama Papers in 2016 sent shockwaves around the world, has released another financial bombshell, the Pandora Papers. Okay, let's get into it. The price of natural gas in Europe has soared to $25 per million BTUs, or British thermal units, more than 4 times the average price from 2010 to 2020 and 5 times the price of natural gas in the United States. Meanwhile, in Asia, liquefied natural gas is priced at $27 per million BTUs, which is even higher than the price in Europe. Crude oil prices soared to $80 per barrel this week, which is a 3-year high. The price of coal also soared to a multi-year high. A Reuters analysis said that the circumstances of energy shortages in many places worldwide actually have their own reasons, but a common denominator of this phenomena is the rebound of industrial activity that has been suppressed by the pandemic. Increases in consumer spending is pushing manufacturers to meet product demand, which has led to a surge in oil, gas, and coal prices. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, their production restrictions and global energy transportation bottlenecks have only added to the problem. OPEC will meet next week to discuss whether to release more capacity to restrain the price spike. Let's take a look at the different factors behind energy shortages around the world. Climate-conscious Europe is now in an energy crisis. At the beginning of August of 2021, gas prices in Europe had risen by 1,000% compared to their record low in May of 2020. The big rise in gas prices has been accompanied by an increase in the price of electricity. Since the beginning of this year, electricity costs in the major EU economies have generally more than doubled from a year ago. Many media sources indicate the main cause of Europe's energy crisis is the lack of sufficient natural gas supply from Russia. Asia is also purchasing larger quantities of liquefied natural gas, resulting in fuel shortages in Europe just weeks before the start of the heating season. But few have mentioned that another major cause of this European energy crisis, and perhaps the most significant, is Europe's over-reliance on new green energy sources in their zeal to fight climate change. Many European countries have continued to shut down coal-fired power plants and have abandoned nuclear power in large numbers. Over-reliance on wind and solar power fuels the problem. With insufficient wind, it has fallen short of production expectations. Since the gas supply is heavily dependent on Russia, if there is a problem with both gas supply and wind power, there is no means to deal with it. After the extreme cold weather that swept through most of the United States in mid-February of this year, we all remember the serious power supply crisis in Texas and other places. We know firsthand the downside of wind energy supply issues. Once again, we see in Europe the problem with the lack of reliability of renewable energy sources. The transition to green energy must not cause an energy crisis and must not seriously affect the life of society at large. It must not plunge society into energy poverty, which is something that countries around the world need to face in the energy transition process. Last week, we talked about several cities in the UK running out of fuel at gas stations. Motorists often get into fights over the rush to fill up. But the UK is not really short of fuel. A severe shortage of truck drivers has made it difficult to get gasolines from the refineries to the gas stations. Although several fuel suppliers jointly appealed to the public to stop panic buying, they still cannot stop people from hoarding. The UK government has insisted for days that the crisis is diminishing or is even over, but fuel retailers say there are still more than 2,000 stations without fuel. Because the situation is not improving, starting on Monday, October 4th, the British government will deploy nearly 200 military transporters, 100 of whom will be drivers, to help deliver fuel to gas stations around the country. Beyond gas, the UK supply chain is stretched to the brink of collapse, with panic buying taking place everywhere. British supermarkets, retailers, coffee shops, and restaurants are struggling to cope with a shortage of freight drivers. The phenomenon is not unique to the UK. The US and other European countries are also experiencing a shortage of truck drivers. Union groups say Britain's exit from the European Union has made the situation worse. Foreigners who want to work in the UK need to go through a complicated process to get visas and pay high fees. With thousands of drivers retiring each month, the Road Haulage Association says the UK faces a shortage of nearly 100,000 truck drivers. To address the supply shortage crisis, on September 26, the British government announced a plan to issue temporary visas for 5,000 foreign truck drivers. However, some foreign truck drivers said they would refuse the visas because the time period is not long enough. On October 1st, the government tweaked the program, introducing a special measure that will allow up to 300 tanker drivers to enter the UK immediately, where they can work until the end of March of 2022. The remaining 4,700 will arrive at the end of October and leave at the end of February of 2022. The United States does not have a shortage of fuel, but the price of gasoline has gone up considerably. Some economists said that inflation is on the rise, and the immediate concern is the soaring prices of certain everyday necessities. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration data, gasoline prices rose 42.7% from August of 2020 to August of 2021. The Biden administration has been pressuring OPEC since August to increase oil production to address rising gas prices. And just 2 weeks ago, Biden said global warming caused by fossil fuels is putting the country and the world at risk. The reason for Biden's anxiety over gas prices is obvious. Rising gas prices are pushing up U.S. retail prices, leading to rising inflation and upsetting much of the wage growth that the American middle class should be enjoying. This, in turn, could jeopardize the Democrats' chance of retaining their congressional seats in the next year's midterm elections, which would defeat all of Biden's agenda. The 24/7 Wall Street website analyzed Bureau of Labor Statistics data to identify the items with the largest price increases since July of 2020. Besides gasoline, the largest price increases from last August to this August were for car rentals, energy, and used cars. Meat and food prices have also risen 15 to 20%. Car rental companies have sold many vehicles after experiencing serious losses last year. Since the travel market has begun to recover, the demand for car rentals outstrips supply and rental prices by 52%. Energy commodity prices jumped nearly 42%. It is expected that the strong prices will continue for some time, but the high prices will in turn affect demand and even hinder the economic recovery. Prices for propane, kerosene, and firewood also rose more than 22%. Utility piped gas service rose 21% and is expected to continue to rise, with the public likely to have the most expensive winter in 13 years for heating costs. The pandemic also caused a global shortage of semiconductors, which forced automakers to cut production. As a result, used cars and truck prices rose nearly 32%. The outbreak has also affected many meat processing plants, and as consumers are cooking more at home, pork and beef prices rose by almost 17%. For the final stories on China's rolling blackouts and the Pandora Papers, which exposes the offshore accounts of the elites, we will be putting these stories over on our other channel, which is called Front Page International. So please click the link here and subscribe to our other channel. We will be gradually moving over to that other channel because if this channel gets one more strike, it will be deleted. I certainly hope that never happens, but as a precaution, please go and subscribe to Front Page International now. The link is in the description below. I will see you over at Front Page International. I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support of Front Page. Your donation and your membership subscription help us to keep telling the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, please double check to make sure that you are still subscribed. We've heard from many of our viewers that they don't get notifications of our videos anymore, so please follow us on Telegram, Gab, and Parler for the latest updates. All of the links are in the description below. Our Telegram chat room is also growing, and many of our YouTube live chat regulars are there as well. So I hope to see you there very soon. Okay, let's get back into it. In terms of the world's worst inflation, no country is as bad as Venezuela is right now. Starting from October 1st, Venezuela decided to remove 6 zeros from its currency, the sovereign bolivar, in order to get rid of hyperinflation. After removing the 6 zeros, a million bolivar becomes 1 bolivar overnight, which is about 25 cents on the US dollar. Before the change in currency, it took 7 million bolivar to buy a loaf of bread. This is the third time in 13 years that the government has removed zeros. Since 2008, Venezuela has removed 14 zeros from its currency, with the late President Hugo Chavez removing 3 zeros in 2008 and his successor Nicolas Maduro removing 5 zeros in 2018. Over the past few decades, Venezuela has gone from being the richest country in South America to the most inflationary country in the world due to a succession of poor investment and mismanagement by the socialist government, coupled with a severe drop in oil prices and a sharp decline in oil exports. China's power supply is in big trouble, with more than 20 provinces experiencing frequent power outages without warning since September. Even the capital, Beijing, is being affected, with rolling blackouts for 10 days in a row. October 1st of this year is the 72nd anniversary of the establishment of the Chinese Communist regime. Traditionally, large light shows were held throughout the country on this day. This year, however, major cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen announced one after another the cancellation of the National Day Light Show. The anniversary was celebrated in darkness, which is considered an inauspicious symbol in the Chinese culture. It can be seen how tight China's electricity is. But the problem of power shortage is not solved by canceling the light show. The fundamental issue is the lack of raw supply. The price of coal is higher than the price of electricity, resulting in power plants not wanting to lose money to generate electricity. The government is quietly loosening their grip and allowing electricity prices to rise. Guangdong province has announced a 25% increase in electricity prices, and other provinces also plan to follow. Inter RAO, the Russian power export monopoly, confirmed on September 29th that it will double its power supply to China in October at Beijing's request. However, the demand for electricity in China is so huge that Russia's assistance will be a drop in the bucket in the current situation. The reason for China's power shortage is lack of coal supply. China used to rely on imported coal for its power generation. Australia was a major exporter, but the CCP stopped importing high-quality, low-cost coal from Australia in retaliation. To fill this gap, China has looked to alternative suppliers, but these suppliers also import coal from Australia and then sell it to China at a higher price. So the price of coal imported by China is inflated, which eventually led to coal shortage. As winter approaches, Beijing authorities are stressing that they will do whatever it takes to ensure power this winter. That's why international coal prices have soared. Even the price of lignite, one of the least energy efficient fuels and the most polluting, has risen sixfold. Lignite is currently $120 a ton compared to $20 a ton in the same period last year. Indonesia is the world's largest lignite producer. Indonesian market sources say Chinese companies are snapping up local lignite at unprecedented high prices after Beijing's order. Higher coal prices will naturally affect the price of electricity. Power plants cannot bear the rising cost and will certainly pass it on to the consumer, so the people's cost of living is likely to increase significantly. Independent economist Zhang Hao told Radio Free Asia that the rising prices of industrial products will inevitably lead to higher prices for those consumer products downstream of them. A vicious chain reaction that threatens to trigger inflation will occur. Zhang said that because inflation has a tendency to accelerate itself, once it starts, it will be difficult to control. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ, on Sunday, October 3rd, released the largest revelation of financial secrets to date, the Pandora Papers. The Pandora Papers involves up to 11.9 million confidential documents covering more than 200 countries and territories. According to the ICIJ, The investigation was the largest journalist collaboration ever. More than 600 journalists from 150 media outlets spent 2 years working in secret to uncover the stories hidden in the records of these classified documents. The ICIJ describes Pandora Papers as an offshore data tsunami. In an era of widening authoritarianism and inequality, the Pandora Papers offers an unparalleled look at how money and power work in the 21st century. The papers expose the financial secrets of 35 current and former world leaders, more than 330 politicians and public officials, 130 billionaires on the Forbes list, as well as celebrities, fraudsters, drug dealers, members of royal families, and leaders of religious groups. This includes offshore dealings of the King of Jordan, the President of Ukraine, Kenya, and Ecuador, the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. These individuals used tax and offshore havens to buy property and hide assets. Many avoid taxes, or even more. Okay, this is our show for today. If you want more Front Page, please join our membership site for in-depth reports and sensitive news that you cannot see on YouTube. And if you like what you heard, please don't forget to like and subscribe this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.